I printed copies for
Thank you so
for the
much.
presentation as well as the full package.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have quorum, we can start.
We can start.
Okay, well, today is beautiful October 11th, and this is a meeting of the Roosevelt Island Operating Corporation Audit Committee. Present here for the committee, Lydia Tang, myself, Howard Pallaby. Present by remote, we have Morris Peters and David Kraut. I got everyone's name right so far. And present for the corporation, right here, we have Druvika Amin, our CFO and the Vice President. And we also have Marcus Louie, who's Assistant Controller with us. And also present for the corporation, we have Mary Cunine, and we have Ada. So, sorry, Ada. I knew I had to miss someone. So,
And she's the chief
We
of
also
staff.
have
our chief of staff. Yes,
Howard, we also have Lana Stasko and Marta Olzuska from the legal department paying attention to the meeting for the corporation.
I'm sorry, I just noticed that there's a lot is online. That's great.
Well, we are not participating, just observing. You
Okay.
can ignore us.
Got it.
And I'd like to give a special thanks to our IT department, who has set us up in this spacious and commodious hall, so we can accommodate all the public.
Yes.
Whether they come or not. Okay.
Okay, so here we're looking at the draft budget for the first time, really. I mean, we've seen copies of it circulated over the last few days, and we'll be getting into it over the next several weeks, but we're looking for a topside review right now. Particular concerns are a cash flow situation that we have. We're always worried about cash flow. And then we have our capital plan, and then we have our staffing plan, where we have a great deal of detail this year, as we should have most years, to look that over. So that includes basically a roster of all current employees and also intentions for hires and maybe some promotions. So we'll be paying closer attention to that as we get into the details. I don't know if we'll do that today.
Hello.
So Drew, you'll be giving us a little presentation.
Correct, yes. I will be giving you a PowerPoint presentation so you can follow me along on the overview of the budget for fiscal year 25-26.
And pardon me, these few pages are the PowerPoints?
Yes. The few pages are.
Do I have a copy of that PowerPoint?
You could just follow me along on, can you see this PowerPoint presentation?
So you gotta stop cutting people out.
Hang on a second.
What's wrong with you?
Will be my meeting?
No.
The materials that will be to you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yes.
Eddie.
All right. Come in, you need to go. You want to come inside?
I'm sorry, I got kind of interrupted for a minute as I was asking about the PowerPoint. I didn't hear your answer.
I said that you can pull up the materials that I emailed yesterday.
I didn't really hear that. I'm terribly sorry. Is your microphone on?
Yes,
Drew?
it's on. Can you hear me?
Did you get email PowerPoints and?
I'm sorry, Lydia, were you talking to me? I'm just having, something isn't working quite right. I don't know if it's here or there or somewhere else.
David, do you hear me?
Yes?
Okay, so there was an email yesterday that shouldn't have the draft of the budget in it.
I have the budget and the personnel budget. but I don't have the PowerPoint that you guys are looking at. Do what?
So you can pull that up. I'll let you know which pages I'm focusing on in my presentation.
Can you use the Teams to Jeff?
What am I misunderstanding here?
Well,
Just to be clear, there's a draft with narrative and then the personnel staffing budget. Those are the two documents that I see.
Yes, I had,
Neither-
those were sent yesterday at October 10th. I have them.
Yep, same. But I don't see a PowerPoint with slides if that's something that's out there.
Well, that's what you guys are saying, but I don't know, Morris, can you see it? I can't see it.
no, the PowerPoint was not emailed because that's my presentation. But you can just follow me along. And
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sorry.
Just let me know when you fill that up. We'll be focusing first on page 5.
To the experience, another board member doing this, like, I'll give you, PowerPoint. I'll give extra talking because, if we can,
That's the Department of Education. Video. For me, or is that? Is the video plugged into that for that? For that, okay.
They are watching this.
Okay,
Sure.
so they can see, so David and, Morris, can you see the proposed budget, schedule?
Yeah, so now I think I understand what the issue is that it's the same information as was in your email, just it's been put into PowerPoint. So I think we can follow along.
So it's not on.
So I don't think it's on Teams.
Yeah.
No, and it's on, I see it.
Oh, it is on, okay.
I got feed on my phone.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ruby Salmi, the CFO and Vice President for Riyadh. The budget was based on a forecasting plan using future reasonable assumptions and trends in operations to determine estimates. I want to thank Marcus Louis, Deputy Comptroller, and the finance team. For the fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget, I will be focusing mainly on the overview of the proposed budget. If you would like to follow along with me, I'll mostly be speaking about the items shown on the 25-26 budget summary, which appears in your meeting materials on page 5. Riyadh's proposed budget fiscal year 25-26 overview. Riyadh is anticipating to see an increase in revenue of $146,471, or 1.1%, and total expenses before depreciation to increase by $3 million, or 8.2%. Therefore, the net income before depreciation is anticipated to increase by $182,244. Now, please turn to page 9 to 12 of the proposed budget materials with a detailed breakdown of revenue. Overall, Riyadh is anticipating to see an increase in revenue of $146,000, or 1.1%. Give me a second. I'm just trying to get the slide to go to work. Main drivers of the increases in revenue are residential revenue is anticipated to increase by $852,000, or 15.9%. This is due to contractual escalations and temp payment from Town Building Number 9. As you all are aware, REAC is due $24.8 million on the commencement date of Building Number 9. And this is when their certificate of occupancy is issued for 90% of the completed units of the building. So we're anticipating that money in mid-November. Ground rent revenue is anticipated to decrease 1.4 million or 18.5%, offset by interest revenue 10.6 million or 17.5%. This is due to GASB 87 reporting guidelines, where we have to do the split between principal and interest. Commercial rent revenue is anticipated to increase 132,000 or 7.5%. This is due to contractual escalations. We do receive guaranteed rent from Hudson Related of $86,000 on a monthly basis. On the 15th anniversary, there will be appraisals that will need to be completed in 2026, and our rent at that time should increase based on the current fair market value. Other revenue are projected to increase by 43,000 or 1.87%. This is due to sports park additional programming for group fitness classes in the fall, advertising, and FEMA grants reimbursement. This is offset by tramway revenue, which is anticipated a decrease of 419,000 or 5.9%. This is due to the F train being back in service, causing a reduction in ridership. Moving along to personnel expenses, detailed breakdown will be located on pages 14 to 16 of the proposed budget materials. Overall, personnel expenses anticipate to increase by 1.5 million or 8.3%. This consists of increase in the number of personnel for the needs of the organization. Additional positions were added to reduce the current professional fees costs and increase savings. The additional positions were added in transportation, sports bar, capital planning projects, and grants. This report also captures vacant positions. Increase in salary is also included in terms of the cost of living adjustment of 2% and standard performance-based increase of 3%. Other than personnel expenses. Now we proceed to other than personnel expenses. Detailed breakdown could be located on pages 16 to 20 of the proposed budget materials. There are some factors contributing to a rising variance. Management fee increased by 433,000 or 6.8%. The management fees consist of COMA for the tramway and motorgate. Insurance increased by 566,000 or 11.5%. This is due to ongoing negotiations with the insurance carrier, which is forecasting double-digit rate increase. Assumptions are also made based on actual data from premiums and the increase in carriers' reinsurance costs in the market and limited capacity issues. Legal fees also increased by 505,000 or 87%. Telecommunications increased by 109,000 or 69.8%. This is due to internet service, provide data lines for Verizon, Fios, and ITS. Fleet maintenance increased by 72,000 or 27.7%. This is due for repairs for fleets, for the buses, for vehicles for grounds and PSD. Office equipment increased by 25,000 or 130.4%. This is an increase in equipment for CPP, trailers, porta potties, and etc. Dues and subscription increased by 32,000 or 85.8%. This is due to the law journals, legislative systems, and CPP certifications. Other expenses increased by 31,000 or 58.1%, which consists of bank charges for merchant fee. This is due to credit card companies that charge, which has a direct correlation with the sports park rent that we receive. Included in other expenses is also the 0.1% of contract value that we have to pay to the public enforcement fund. Other drivers of other than personnel expenses is the public purpose fund increased by 100,000 or 66.7%. The resolution to increase was passed at the September board meeting. These expenses are offset by professional fees that decreased by 372,000 or 15.4%. These professional fees include stand guard that provide aquatic and lifeguard services, NVAC, ESD training, and cleaning. Computer software equipment decreased by 10,000 or 12.5%. Utilities, which is power and water, decreased by 225,000 or 25.3%. We anticipate a steady usage, and this is based out of actual that we're seeing right now. Finally, let's look at the capital plan budget for fiscal year 25-26. Detailed breakdown will be located on page 7 to 8 of the proposed budget materials. Overall, we're budgeting 7.98 million in capital planning. This is a reduction of 19.4 million that was budgeted from prior year's capital budget, which was projected at 27.4 million. And we're able to defer the negative cash flow position by 2 years. As a result, the capital plan for fiscal year 25-26 is much narrower in scope than in recent fiscal years. The major projects are 1.8 million for roadway rehabilitation, 2.1 million for vehicle bus upgrades, and 1.5 million for tramway modernization. Moving forward, I have identified several strategic ideas that can enhance cash flow, keep operations sustainable, and reduce costs. As such, they include grant income, exploring various avenues to increase grant funding that align with our capital, operational, and infrastructure type of projects. Contract reviews which are favorable to RIA, that includes negotiating terms with OMA during next year's renewal to the terms favorable for RIA. Defer or cut back to certain capital projects based on cash flow, review cost benefit analysis for contracts, explore additional revenue streams for bill back, for AVAC, and when buses are organized with the full fleet, advertising and permits, and increasing PSD reimbursements. We continue to look for additional revenue through possible lease true-ups after the review of each lease. We have been successful in receiving true-up monies from several buildings. These items will be staged properly, and we have to take inflation into consideration when making final decisions. The current inflation rate is at 2.5% compared to 3.7% last year. Inflation has fell to its lowest level in 3.5 years. This is due to falling oil, rent, and vehicle prices. Overall, the price of goods have fallen nearly by 2% over the last 12 months. However, cost of services continue to climb. Grocery prices are not falling, but leveled off, and housing costs are climbing. Rising wages will gradually catch up to the higher prices. The Federal Reserve began cutting rates in September, but the risks remain in the inflation outlook. Finally, some of the success stories that I'd like to include is implementing a financial and accounting software as we move to a digital world, and we've been able to automate some platforms. We've done the purchase of red buses earlier this year. We're continuing to reduce service contracts and increasing revenue on certain contracts. This includes negotiating with the New York State Public Parks agreement with the Four Freedoms Park. Earlier this year, we also increased fees for mortgage parking and lease true-ups that were previously mentioned. And these include true-ups for Eastwood and Child School. We were also able to increase the public purpose fund for the community nonprofits. And we continue to have more success stories in the future. Lastly, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. I hope today we are successful in delivering consistent growth that benefit the public.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Drew, I have a question, a general question. I went through this budget, high spotting and reading the executive summaries. I didn't fine tooth comb it. I admit to that. But I have a general question about how we do what we do. And that has to do with, are you satisfied that our budgeting or financial software is as useful as it could be? The point of my question is that I have this constant, endless drive to have clear and quick reporting so that you can print out or ask a question where we stand in almost any category and get an answer up to date from today or yesterday or no later than last Friday, for instance. Are we at that point yet?
So we just went live October 1st with our financial accounting software. So we are working out some kinks, but it's been able to merge our internet requisition process with the purchase order. So it's streamlined that. It's streamlining our accounts payable and our accounts receivable processes. So it's actually requiring less manual labor, and it's automating some of these platforms. And also, for next year's budget, we're going to be using their budgeting platform. And we should be able to provide information on a real-time basis.
Thank you.
Yes, you can. Now it's come to be.
I am confident based on the data that I currently have and trends in operations. So last year's budget, we were projected to be in a negative cash flow position in 26, in fiscal year 26 and 27. So I've been able to defer that to another 2 years. Where we'll be experiencing a negative cash flow starting in year 28 to 20.
Well, then we could.
And that's if we decide to do capital projects.
Right, so we capital projects forward and let's say right side. That result of that is to push back. They are. Right.
I'm not hearing, whoever is speaking, I'm not hearing you very well. I don't know what's
I'm
happening.
sorry. Because we're moderating capital projects. David, do you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, because we're moderating the capital projects and staging them a little bit forward in time. We're able to defer the worrisome prospect of a negative cash flow. So this gives us some years of opportunity to try to line up support, possibly from the state, possibly federal support, in the nature of grants that might be present for real infrastructure projects. We have time to package the projects properly to seek the funds that we need for building these long-term capital supports that are necessary. For example, roadworks. For example, seawall. So, although we show the full impact on our budget here, the hope is that over the next year or two, we're able to line up support We tried to get support for the buses, but that, I guess didn't fall short. So perhaps with the next buses, we'll be in a better position to get support for modernizing our fleet. Which will also be a big help for possible grades.
So we are in the initial early stages of the grants initiative right now. We are looking at all levels at federal, state, and city. And we're also able to receive support from the private sector as well. And we've been in touch with elected officials as well as other agencies. So we're working really hard to see what we are eligible for and how those grants can line up with the projects that we want to take on. It is challenging because we are set up as a public benefit corp. So that in of itself, at most times, we're not eligible, unfortunately. But we have learned that we could be like a sub-recipient of like another agency and receive funding that way. So we're going that out as well. And last week I had a call with a consulting grant company that would do the research, would do the applications, and would also do the compliance piece where they would follow up the reporting even after receiving the grants. So we're looking in that direction as well.
So it's a little bit analogous to the New York Community Trust.
This is for grants that we want to receive. The public purpose funds is something that we give to the community not-for-profits. So if you look at it, we'll be for income, but then it's an expense for us when we.
Right. So it's
Yeah,
the cost is different. So
exactly. A lot of them, yeah, are like big bridges, big roadways that.
David?
The infrastructure is just large, large branches, I guess, are really,
Yes.
people. Much larger than. Alright, so there's a small power. We don't need to say small power.
Yes, but there's times that we can also do as well, so we're looking at that as well. It might be in smaller amounts, but at the end of the day, it's still some kind of, it's like.
Well, in fact, our master. Earlier rather than later, there's a possibility of having line items included certain possibilities. I remember that we got seawall on Carolyn. Because there was some damage to the seawall, and it's not waterway, and there's a reason found, so on. Bill. Well, yeah, if we get our asses struck right away, there's a possibility.
Yes.
It's not coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to
Okay, so the positive benefits. It's hard. It's a state action.
Correct, exactly. So I wanted the budget to be conservative. I didn't do any projections for grant income because we just don't know.
So right now, the budget is still not on. The release and see what. That's it.
We have the roadways, the steam tunnels, we had the modernization. We did cancel the bike grant. So that's been canceled.
And so the seat wall. That.
At the seawall, that's the steam tunnel. I think the rail we talked about first year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not,
Yeah. So
but that's budgeted.
that is budget.
Yeah. Well, we only budgeted for the families for now, which is around 200,000. We just don't know what the top fee for, um, I guess the wood decking would be at. We're still reviewing the assessment.
Because we're willing to come back.
You didn't select your audio system. Huh?
But the crowd is also budgeted in and out.
Oh, no, it's not selected. You didn't get it.
Says, if you have papers to look at the requirements, apply the reduction. But the first of all, that was on the books. Yeah.
So that was. Thanks.
I'm trying.
Yeah, he does help me with that, it sure is.
I couldn't hear your comment. No, I said that's why I said Ada is starting to initiate the rent search process. So she'll be talking to the politicians on it, because they're not, they have a guess. Steer our way for our.
Okay, I think that's a great initiative. I think we should be building on the staff resources. It happened. Part for the team, so. As we get better at it. Part staff, an algorithm has some positions in the personnel. That flush out his department, and the more he has to provide. Here are external expenses. And also having a chance of expertise also another way.
Excuse me, Morris, are you getting all this?
No, I'm having trouble hearing. Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing.
Neither am I. This is atrociously bad coverage, video coverage of the meeting. Let's get the professionals in next time. It's a specialty. People have to be trained to it. It cannot be kind of like the stuff you're used to doing. It has to be specifically the stuff that you do every day professionally if we're going to have these meetings covered properly. We're supposed to be recording this meeting, and the recordings are not going to have any sound availability on them. I have not heard a word of the discussion you guys are having, and especially trying to have this thing covered by one guy swinging a camera back and forth. This is junior high school coverage, guys. Let's get professional next time, okay? Give me a promise.
So we're not being here.
No, I'm not sure why. Maybe here, have a speaker.
Can't hear it.
The speaker out.
It should be working, but maybe try that as well.
Is this speaker working? You hear me?
Oh yeah, that's much better quality. Lydia, no, I'm sorry, not your fault. Believe me. Thank you. They've given us a very bad setup today. It's kind of embarrassing. This is a public meeting that the public can't possibly access.
Okay. So. All right, so I'll say what I said before, and I think this part to how we can say what we said before. And hopefully the public will hear everything that we have said. So what I said was I was very happy that Ada was going to be looking into, you can't hear, is that what you're saying? By shaking
Notice
your
that Morris is leaning in. He's a lot more politer than I am. But I'm not a damn bit polite. I'm a professional communicator, and I'm embarrassed by what's going on here today. This is nonsense.
Morris, are you able to hear?
Are you able to hear me, Morris?
Can't hear you, Howard. That microphone is not covering your full vocal range.
I heard you just now, Howard, but I haven't been hearing people until then.
I hope you heard my presentation.
Yeah, I could hear your presentation, Drew.
As a matter of fact, yes, we heard that perfectly well, Drew. Thank you. Let me put your mind at ease on
Thank
that.
you.
It's this discussion that's going on with the sound flying back and forth between different pickups and the camera going back and forth. I'm glad we've eliminated that, but it's kind of deteriorated since your presentation.
So I have a question. When we were doing this in the warehouse conference, when you were there, were you able to hear anything?
Didn't hear that? That broke up. It's breaking up.
I'm here. Focusing very hard.
You're not able to hear.
You're not able to hear. That's what you're saying. You're not able to. So
Morris is leaning in. Keep your eyes on Morris. He gives natural responses to what he's hearing and not hearing.
Mohammed,
Can you hear us now?
yeah.
I heard that.
That's better. And
I heard that last question of, can you hear us now? Very clearly, thank you. And then, of course, you all started talking at the same time. So after that, I didn't hear a thing. But I heard, can you hear us now?
So I will ask the question again. Can you hear me now?
I'm kind of hearing that. Just
Yeah,
trying
and
to
then-
talk it up. Again, watch
then-
Morris. Don't look at me, watch Morris.
and then maybe if we're finished, looking together at the slide, maybe it'd be helpful if we took the screen sharing down, and it might help to be able to see you a little bit better.
You don't need to share the screen anymore. They can look at us.
Yep. And thank you.
Okay, so is this microphone working? Because apparently I had touched something and turned the mic off, which is why you don't hear me. So I apologize. I didn't mean to touch something inappropriate. So hopefully the two of you, Morris, can you hear me?
Someone speak?
No.
No. You can't hear me.
You have to speak loud. Can you?
People listen, Mark.
I hate to be such a contentious person on all of this, but you got to be able to, if you can't hear us, then the recording isn't working well. The public cannot hear us. and see us.
We hear you well. Do you hear me?
I
Right
can
now,
hear
I
you,
can. Howard, I heard that.
Okay, so Morris, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think you just have to speak loudly, and we'll probably be able to hear you, Lydia. Thank you.
Okay, well, I said it before, we said very different data and responsibility.
Which part of speak loudly did you not quite pick up?
And I am using their teacher voice, I'm so sorry.
Don't blame it on us. It's the system, man. Bad technology means bad communication means bad all.
Let's try again. Is this working at all?
Now I hear it. Now I hear you good.
Okay.
But
I
it's,
think you guys got to pass the mic back and forth.
Straight
Talk right
into
in.
this, all right.
Thanks.
So I'm saying that I'm very grateful to Ada for taking on the role of searching for grants to increase funding for the organization. So thank you very much, Ada.
and I went on about how it's very helpful to build up the internal staff to fulfill the new roles, such as Ada looking for grants, they need some help. And I mentioned that Alvaro is building out his engineering department, which will end up helping save us money because we will be less reliant on Lyra. And also, when we do use outside expertise, we'll be better prepared to ask them specific questions rather than general questions to focus their attention and get better value out of their special expertise.
Well, that makes sense, Howard. And I noted that Drew pointed out that we reduced some of our outside expertise expense by $800,000 by ending our contract with one of the agencies that provides it. And that's a good idea as long as we don't leave ourselves naked, unprotected, and uncovered on the stuff we do have to have help on. And that calls for fine judgment. I understand that. See, I did read it, Drew.
We've done a cost benefit analysis, and it's definitely more effective to hire personnel in-house, where the liability is sustained if we were even using an external third party. And it will reduce our third-party contracts that are millions of dollars. The Lero owner's rep contract is about $5 million, and the Stand contract for the lifeguard and fire services is about $1 million.
Well, we have less money to work with, so we have to find savings somewhere. And if that's the right place to look for savings, and so be it. I have no reason to nitpick any of your suggestions. They all seem fine to me. I would suggest in a larger sense, Howard, that it's time for us to very carefully revisit all the old agreements between the city and the state underpinning the founding of Roosevelt Island. Because if the state is saying that we have to be on our own, the state's not giving us enough to dictate to us. And we are a state outfit. The state has a moral responsibility to support Roosevelt Island that we have taken care of in the past 20 or 30 years by funding ourselves through ground rents and so forth. But I remember the time when we needed state help to carry out our mission, both capital, mostly capital, about $5 million a year, and another $1 million a year operations, which we haven't taken. And we've left the state off the hook for that amount. And I'm not sure personally if the state is on the hook legally, but we may need to, like I say, revisit all the agreements, find the money, call out the money, as they say, claw it back.
Well, the last occasion the state offered support explicitly was for the tramway reconstruction, where they paid 60% of the cost of the project, $15 million. Okay. So with a long-term project like that, maybe it's a good model for seeking the roadway work, which is also a very long-term capital project. And also for the steam plant, the steam tunnel, that whole area, which is really a matter of contention between us and what are they now, HPD?
Yes, HCD.
I have the acronym right. HPD, because there's a steam plant, there's a steam tunnel, there's the seawall built into the steam tunnel.
And steel stacks.
And the smokes and the stacks on the steam plant. And no one is sure exactly who they want to own the thing, except probably not them.
I'm glad you brought up the steam plant. I'm glad you brought up the steam plant. It's a property that we haven't been able to do anything with, and it's the one developable large plot still available to us.
Oh, we may have some.
That's got to get straightened out.
We may have some discussion about that in the next REDAC meeting. There might be some possibilities along those lines.
It's a brownfield. We know that. It's a brownfield. It's going to take a lot.
We are going to do an external law firm to come up with certain options to activate those conversations with the.
Great. That would be Chris Rizzo.
Correct.
Okay.
That's-
Yes. Long enough for me to even remember his name.
Now, Morris Peters and I have discussed, where the state kind of falls into funding for the job, and, he's really managed, our expectations where, for now, REACT is supposed to be self-sustained. We've always been self-financed. Okay, now it's not, it was.
For 20 years.
For 20 years, 25 years. Okay. So, Morris has, managed those expectations where we will continue to be self-sustaining, self-sufficient.
Well, particularly for operations. Operations clearly zones. But I'd like to argue that for large capital items that are due once in a generation, pretty much, certainly a 30-year threshold, we might look to support, just like any building group to support, if they have a special project to revamp their roadways. We'll see what's possible. And we'll borrow some evidence.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Howard, and thank you, Drew. Drew is certainly correct that I think where the state's expectations are from an operating perspective for public benefit corporations is that there are, revenues inherent to, the corporation, and there are expenses, and, the hope is that they are structured in such a way that the revenues will be adequate for the expenses. Howard, you're right that there are a lot of capital programs available through the state for local governments. And I think we'll have to kind of explore how that might work. And it could be, I don't know this, we'd have to run the traps. It could be something to the effect of, New York City would have to apply for something on behalf of REOC. Or something along those lines for some of these programs where capital dollars might exist for things like, water related expenses and, potentially roads and things like that. But I'm certainly encouraged, Drew, by your budget, including people who are in the grant world. I think it's useful to have, people in those positions to start to run the traps on things along those lines. As I'm now seeing our enormous crowd here as we. But no, thank you for those comments.
I'm thinking that this is an initial presentation budget, and we have some studies to go through to work with Drew and Marcus getting answers that we understand. There's one item, I can't find it twice. It was in the cash projection. 1,779,000. It just kept repeating. It wasn't, I didn't quite understand the phone.
We're talking about the deferred revenue.
Yeah, the reversal of deferred revenue.
So that basically, okay, so deferred revenue means revenue received but not earned. So you've already received the cash upfront for goods and services that were not yet.
Well, one prime thing would be, we received prepayment to the ground rent.
Correct.
Optimum, for example.
Correct. And so this has to do with the gas 87.
Oh, okay, now, thanks.
So cash are going to be received in a prior period. And because of that, now, since it was received in a prior period, the revenue has been earned, we have to reverse that deferred revenue. So we're not counting it in income. Quite.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense as far as the LD, so that makes
Yes.
sense.
So, then my concern was that we're projected to be measured capital in 2028. Correct. So, including all these, we're putting the grant search in place, process in place, hoping to offset it. Don't necessarily know whether or not we'll be able to get grants. In the event that we don't get grants, are there other projects that you're planning on deferring further in order to keep us from being in negative situation? We can certainly continue to defer this internal project because we don't own the same right? Yeah. But we're kind of on the hook for the repairs because of the safety issue and the deterioration
repairs that are. Um, currently, Landon, Engineering, is going to provide us an assessment. It's going to be in 3 stages in terms of what's critical, that has to be done immediately. And then what should be done this year, and then what would be done in the 3rd year. And then also what preventive maintenance time. So we're still waiting to receive that. So once we assess that, we can discuss in terms of what we need to do. And I think it's better fine, but still help us finalize the projects. Where we don't need to do everything at once, but again, we still don't own the time.
So I have a question for Morris. Morris, do you know of any funding source that can help cover the expense of, the steam tunnel costs that are going to be incumbent upon somebody, hopefully the state, to prevent a catastrophic event in this one? I mean, should it collapse and people, cars, whatever might be on that
Well,
collapse?
that's easy. The fence,
Fence?
the fence up on the walk line on go. So,
Yeah, but the entire person.
yeah. So that's one of the possibilities. It's not cheap, but it's also not.
There is one area that's unsafe, where it's kind of, I think, more to the north side, where hardly there's any traffic and, you know, there's not many pedestrians that walk from there. But it is a unsafe spot, which we probably should.
And so,
We're talking about the steam,
go ahead.
sorry, we're talking about the steam tunnels, right? It's still a little hard to hear. Yeah, so, right, so I don't know that that it's germane, I guess, to this specific conversation about the upcoming budget year. So maybe we don't need to spend too much time on it. I would suggest that there's going to have to be a lot of thinking about the steam tunnels. I know it's an enormous expense, and the city's involved as well as the state and of course REOC. I think this is one of those areas that might be so big that it might also benefit from, the involvement of a CEO once we have, one filling that particular chair. It's going to be a gigantic project that's going to take a long time probably. So I think there's a lot to it, and I would just suggest that that's probably a conversation unto itself.
Yeah, we shouldn't be speculating now, except we know that we have a lighting report to look at, and we have some nuances being tamed to find out what's immediate needs in the next budget year, not now. And so we'll be able to take measures to at least keep it safe. The larger project will mature over time, these things do. Same with the disposition of the steam plant itself. That's not this week, it's not this month, it's here, possibly. But soon as the plan. So you're right, Lawrence, we should focus on this budget now. And we should look at it in more detail in the next few weeks. And have another meeting, somewhere around mid-November, once we can have a better understanding of what the question is. And we'll become well prepared in order to support the budget when we make a motion for the next board meeting to recommend that it be approved. So I'm trying to look at if we have any other business plan.
So the civil tentatively is still having.
It's always been the same. And so we have December 19th. Service.
That's, yes.
Okay, and it's
So we
a
can
bit,
possibly 2 weeks before.
right, it could be early December, it could be
Yes.
late November, something. Like to work on the press. Yeah, the budget needs to be in place and then circulated, 90 days before the fiscal.
Nice exercise.
And so Morris has had at least the salary staff. I'm sure he's had comments and conversations about it. And so we can see what we come up with questions. We can certainly discuss it at the next meeting.
So Marcus, do you have access to, typical comparable salaries across the state? And public employees or in these positions? That's something that you would have to. Yeah. I don't remember you saying anything like you.
Did you hear that, Morris?
Okay, so the question I asked was, Morris, being that you is the state budget office, if you had comparable salary information across the state or ranges, salary ranges for comparable positions? Did you hear that?
Morris, did you hear Lydia?
Yep, got it. Thank you. Yeah, so civil service, I was on mute for a second, sorry. Civil service creates salary ranges for for each title. So those are certainly available. And they're publicly available on the internet. So for all titles, there's going to be a range. There are certain titles that fall outside of a range. They're not graded positions, but most of them do have a range, and that's publicly available.
So it's something this we can get them.
Yes, we can, search that.
Do you have any other questions? But Morris, David.
I just wanted to say thank you to Drew and her team for their presentation, especially the narrative part, which was super helpful for me, in terms of just framing, how the pieces fit together for this upcoming year's budget. That was very, very helpful. I think it's great that we're making some investments and, that are very targeted. I know we've talked a lot about the buses. We've talked a lot about, a few key positions, and I think that the staff has done a good job of, especially in the capital budget, being very selective about what we're, spending limited resources on, in such a way that has allowed some of those important investments to be made. I also appreciate that the staff has done a good job about, multi-year financial planning. You project out a fair number of years, which helps us, sort of get our head around, how the revenue flow over time is going to impact things, and then what our sort of expense trends might be as well. So this is all very useful for me as a new board member. So I just wanted to say thank you for all of that. I don't think I have any specific questions right now. I've had the opportunity to go through some of these documents before with Drew earlier. So I'll continue looking at them, but I just want to say thank you for now. Thank you, Drew.
So I want to echo that as complete signature. You're welcome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody on the staff.
I'm sorry, my microphone wasn't on. I'm sorry, Lydia. I spoke over you again, as I've never done before.
I'm sorry?
I said, I seem to have been speaking over you, as I have never done before.
Well, it's been about an hour, and we can entertain motion.
Sure, we can let you adjourn.
And I second the motion, and now we vote.
I would just like to say that everything Morris said, I was going to say, well, he said it a lot better. But I speak to it, particularly as Morris was, I was particularly taken with the fact that the people who helped to assemble this budget, as they put together their needs, which went through your department for further revision, or editing, seem to have manifested a sensitivity to the fact that budgets are going to be tight. Budgets are going to be tight around here for a while, and it seems to have been recognized at every level. And I just want to share my respect for that. Thank you.
Was there a motion on the floor? Was that to adjourn,
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Okay, so it's 3:04. And the meeting of the Roseville Island Operating Corporation Audit Committee is now adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Lydia, before we went off in all directions, you have a very important meeting coming up next week. And I hope to God you have a better video setup than we've had here today. And insist, I recommend to you that you insist that the professionals come back and that we spend the 10 cents to get those people back in here.
I agree. It worked. I was just not very good. It worked out in some. I have to go for I was here. Okay. Really was. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I think you need to go back to myself. It was as if you just.